Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN Weekly for Saturday, June 26th, 2021. And our top story today, are you binged out? We're going to take a look at what's next for streaming post-pandemic. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Bonnie Bruderer. She's founder and chief executive officer for Binge Networks. Bonnie, so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's great to see you and great to talk about streaming. It's something that, we might be the Broadcast Retirement Network, but we stream. And by the way, retirees and pre-retirees both watch streaming, and they're watching it more and more. I want to get your assessment of, what did we learn around this pandemic when it came to reaching people and the consumption of media from services like Binge?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much overnight, the streaming industry changed. It was already on a huge trajectory of being really the way people consume media. But with the pandemic, we saw overnight places like CNN, Fox News, NBC, everybody had to be broadcasting from their home, sort of equal ground. And at the same time, people were, sequestered in their houses. So they had to watch streaming. That was the only way for them to get news, to get information, to get entertainment. So we've really seen the viewing behavior 10x, as well as the awareness of what streaming is, how important it is, and how easy it is for people like yourself to create content and be able to reach millions of viewers.
Yeah, and I should add that, Binge Networks, you've been on the cusp, right? You're kind of one of the pioneers of this platform. From your perspective as a pioneer, I would assume it's kind of refreshing to see kind of things. Look, we went through a horrific pandemic, but I think it's probably refreshing that it kind of reaffirms your vision of how things kind of are shaping up.
Yeah, I mean, just me personally, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So we've been in the industry 7 years, and back in March, I planned on kind of winding things down a little bit. I was having my first daughter. She was born March 22nd. And I thought, this is going to be great. I can kind of take it a little slow. Well, the pandemic, lockdowns all happened. I had 3 days off with her being born, and the streaming industry just went like this. So it's been, we've been preaching this for a very long time. As I said, we're 7 years into this. We were early adopters. We're one of the leaders in the industry. But it was so fascinating for me to see all of a sudden everybody needing to use streaming and to use this as a medium. And it's really stayed, even though things are sort of opening up and going back a little bit to normal for some people, the streaming behaviors and streaming industry we're really seeing continue to grow. Yeah,
and that's congratulations to you for having the foresight to create something that people could use and watch it evolve. Let's talk about content for a minute. We saw organizations like Netflix and others just put out a ton of content. And from your perspective as a long-term provider in this space, are people binged out? How many episodes of Friends can you watch? How many new series can you watch? And are people just kind of over that? And are they being a little bit more judicious with their time in terms of what they're watching?
So, the answer is really no. You would think, again, of course, when we were locked in our homes, we had no other options. We're going to be watching and binging more things. We saw people watching sports events that happened years ago when that had never really happened before. Now that we do have a few more options, we can get back a little bit into society. We're still seeing people stream because it's so convenient, because you can do it when you want to do it. I know for myself, like last night, I wanted to do a workout and I thought, I could go to a gym. Nope, I'm a Peloton person. I streamed a yoga class. If I want to learn something, I do masterclass streaming. So it's something where I think we learned very quickly how convenient it can be. And I think that you're going to see the trends continue, whether you're watching, all of the series of Breaking Bads over a long weekend, or you're doing your workouts, you're doing your learning, or even working or creating content just as you're doing here today. So I think, of course it will taper a little bit because there are some additional options and some movie theaters are starting to open slowly. But I think people really learned, the value of streaming, and it's definitely here to stay.
Yeah, and let's talk about the competition. You talked about how overnight the major media outlets had to really reconfigure themselves to streaming. How do you see streaming competition really kind of playing out? Is there going to be more offerings, more consolidation? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so what I saw pre-pandemic was that there was a very high quality requirement as far as content. People weren't necessarily taking content like we're even creating today or Zoom content. And then, like I said, overnight, everyone at CNN, every news source was doing Zoom content. So what was exciting about that for me is it allowed a lot more opportunity for creators to be able to stream their content on a lot of platforms that, of course, made everyone want to jump into the industry, right? So again, we've been here forever. Pretty much since the early days. And now there's hundreds and hundreds of streaming companies. And in my opinion, I came from the internet days. I started in the very early days of the internet. I saw the same thing happen where, once people caught on, there were hundreds of companies. And then there was a bit of a crash where a lot of them kind of fell to the wayside or went out of business. And I think the same thing will happen to the streaming company. There's definitely the leaders in the industry. Right now, there's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of people, throwing their boat in the streaming ocean, if you want to say, but I think that will sort of re-establish. I think you'll see some, leaders continue to stay on top. You'll see a couple emerging companies, but there's plenty of opportunity and there's plenty of angles as far as how people operate in the streaming industry.
Yeah, in terms of quality, do you see the quality? You mentioned there's a lot of competition, and so that kind of speaks to the quality of the content. If you're putting out lots of content, how can you ensure that it's quality content, either with good entertainment, good acting, good information? And then also, can you talk a little bit about bandwidth? Because there are parts of the US that still maybe don't have access to 5G, don't have access to the internet, or the internet in some places is very spotty.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll address the content piece first. It doesn't take a lot to create good content. It's all about your audience and creating value. So here today, you're filming on green screen. I'm filming here with just a very simple iPhone and a Diva Light. So once you kind of learn how to create good content, it's making sure that you're saying something that's of value to your audience. That can be done very easily. It can be done daily. It can be done weekly. And, one of my favorite things to see during the pandemic was when you saw like the night shows, and they would have their child, some of the hosts would have like their child draw something that used to be a big graphic and a big type of thing. And that was just entertaining and engaging because we all could appreciate it. We're all at home. We all don't have fancy bells and whistles right now. So, so as far as creating content, it's always important message to market match, making sure that you have the right audience, you're saying the right things that are providing value. And as far as, the second piece of that, remind me what the second piece was. I got so
that was
excited about
bandwidth and some of the concerns, maybe some of the internet access for rural areas of the United States or across the globe, for that matter.
Yeah. So, the infrastructure, internet, all of that is a big topic right now, especially as we saw with children trying to be educated at home and a lot of times didn't have the right internet. So we're seeing that be fixed and added at a, relatively high speed. But at the same time, it is a necessity. If you are in a place where you don't have high speed internet, you don't have a lot of bandwidth, it is challenging to watch a film on Netflix or to stream great content. So it is necessary. I think those same challenges exist for those areas with cable and things like that over time. So I think the solutions are right around the corner. But it is definitely a necessity that you do have, high bandwidth internet to be able to view all of the content that's out there.
Yeah, great suggestions. Last question, when you look at your crystal ball, and of course, you saw the fast trajectory of streaming because you've been in it for a very long time. But when you look post-pandemic, what does it say to you? What did the tea leaves say to you in terms of quality of content, the increase of streaming? I think there are 206 million people by last count across the globe that are watching through streaming. So what do the tea leaves say once we reach this new normal?
I love that question. I'm a big tea leaf type of person. So, for us, we're in a unique niche. We work with creators like you that have content and we're able to place it on 100 different OTT platforms. There are, of course, the leaders, and we work with all of them, the Rokus, the Amazons, Netflix, all of those. And I think that, again, they had to lower the bar or the standards for quality content. I think that will raise as things open up, as more production becomes available. But I do think that, the door was open. We got in. For us, we try to keep our caliber very high as far as the content creators we work with. We've all seen what happened with YouTube, where back in the day, people were making millions of dollars and there were all of these influencers, and there still are some, but it's very rare. It's rare that somebody, opens up a channel and becomes this huge, without dedicating money to get followers and grow their audience. So I think that we will see sort of a slow climb in the echelon of content as they're accepting it. But I also think it opens the door for people that are serious about creating content, not just a YouTuber that has an iPhone and a skateboard and is just, telling you what they ate for breakfast. Somebody that really wants to create valuable content, I think that opportunity is open for them and that they can play with the big leaders in the industry.
Yeah, bro, really good advice. I hope people out there, whether you're thinking about watching in streaming format or content, or you're thinking about creating content, there's a lot of lessons there. Bonnie Bruder, it's a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program. We look forward to having you back on again sometime very soon.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. Great to see you. Thanks for sharing your perspective. And when we come back, we'll take a look at some of our best segments for the week. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN Weekly. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. On Tuesday, I sat down with Greens Do Good's Chantel Walker and Jen Faust about how to help adults with autism find employment. Let's take a look.
So Read Autism Services is really sort of an umbrella organization that encompasses several other nonprofit organizations. So our flagship program is called Read Academy, and that's our school-based program for ages 3 to 21. We are based on the principles of applied behavior analysis, and we infuse technology in everything that we do in our learning. We also have a 1-to-1 staff to student ratio, so we're very proud of the teaching and the education that occurs at Read Academy. And that program really started in 2003. And as our founding families and their children started to get a little bit older, we asked what every older teen family asked, and that's what's next. And that's how Read Next became a reality. So we knew that after 21, services really drop off for parents and for their children. A lot of parents describe it as falling off a cliff. And we knew that we needed to do better by the people that we had in our program. So we started Read Next Day program, which is vocational training, life skills during normal business hours. And a few years later, we opened our first residence, Read Next Residence, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week supervised group home for adults with autism. And we have now one residence, one apartment, and a second residence coming online here this summer. So we're very excited about that. We also have a charitable foundation, the Read Foundation for Autism, which is really sort of the engine that fuels all of these new and exciting programs. And specifically the one we're here to talk about today, which is Greens Do Good, our hydroponic indoor vertical farm located in Hackensack, New Jersey. So that's a lot of moving parts. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but we're doing a lot under Read Autism Services.
I couldn't agree more. We are so proud of our workforce development piece, which brings teens and young adults in neighboring districts and from other parts of the community into the farm to learn those valuable work skills and tee them up for paid employment opportunities, either with us or with other agricultural entities in the area. We really feel like the value they're bringing is priceless.
Yeah. And Jeff, if I could,
I'd
just like to add, one of the data points that we learned some time ago that has really stuck with us is less than half of 25-year-olds with autism have ever held a paying job. And we know from our work with adults with autism that they bring a tremendous amount of skill and heart and dedication and commitment to their roles. And so we want to do what we can to make that situation a more positive one for our adults.
So we have sort of a two-step process. The first thing is that if you are still in your high school enjoying your educational entitlements, we can create internship programs that allow those transition students into our farm to sample work experience in an agricultural setting and see if you have the inclination. We really respect preference. So if you are interested in farming and you'd like to learn more about sustainability, we welcome you. So we can create those internships where you would come to our farm once or twice a week and really learn. After that, after you turn 21, we would love to be able to offer you paid employment at our farm. We are a micro farm, though. I think this is sort of important to note. We are 3,000, just over 3,000 square feet of, vertical farming space. So we can only hire so many. We're sort of at capacity at the moment. And what we're trying to do now is make friends with other farms in the area. It could be a traditional soil farm or like us, indoor hydroponics, and encourage them to also hire these folks that we are training and teeing up for these employment opportunities.
Right. And we understood the importance of bringing healthy, organic food to essentially food deserts, this urban agriculture concept. We saw it as an opportunity to get in early and do some training so that our teens and adults can really have a leg up in terms of employment opportunities as these opportunities continue to expand throughout New Jersey. If you drove past our farm, you would never know it was a farm. It's in a very nondescript sort of, warehouse space. And until you walk in, you really don't see the magic from the outside.
We're the first in New Jersey to enter into farming as a social enterprise. Like, our mission from the beginning has always been to create employment opportunities and use revenue to support our individuals with autism. But we are not unique in the sense of realizing that traditional farms use far more water, energy, pesticides and herbicides and things that we are trying to move away from. So our indoor space is, like we said, hydroponic, which means it's completely soil free. We use less water, like 90% less than a traditional farm. We use less energy, and we're able to grow 365 days a year. And part of that is also impressing upon our neighbors and area, folks in the area about eating local. It's so important to know where your food is coming from. Today, largely food is grown for transportation, not for consumption. And we are trying to change the narrative around that and educate our community about, the importance of eating locally grown food. And then obviously the social component is just as important. Buy from us. It's local, it's pesticide-free, herbicide-free, soil-free, vegan. Oh, and also you're supporting adults with autism.
And on Friday, I sat down with Rise Up founder Tara Falcone about the growth of retail traders in 2021. Let's take a look.
So, for the past couple of years, we've really been focused on helping college students establish a general personal financial foundation, which includes investing, but really focuses a little bit more on, budgeting and taxes and the core aspects of financial health that somebody should be worried about at a young age. But now looking at the retail market, especially, putting my former hedge fund analyst hat on, I'm seeing some opportunity in the retail investing space to help this new generation of retail investors take more intentional action with their investments rather than following the herd, which is a lot of what we've seen in the past year. It was a really interesting behavioral finance era or epic to be a part of and to observe. What happened was you've got this entire generation of young people who have been hounded on that they should start investing. They should start investing early, right? The personal finance community has done what it should do, which is to tell them to start investing. However, even pre-pandemic, the valuations seemed a little frothy, which is, to say something about that now. But, they've been told that they should start investing. And then you've got companies like Robinhood and others that have really, quote unquote, democratized investing and made it much more accessible to the average young person. They've put it right on their phones, and that's where young people live. And then all of a sudden you saw the stock market drop. And so, these young people saw, hey, this is my chance, right? This is my chance to make wealth in the same way that maybe, previous generations before me were able to do. And so they really jumped on the bandwagon. However, that access had not been appropriately coupled with satisfactory education about investing and what even just a stock's price means, for example. And so a lot of these investors are really just flying blind. And that's why you see this herd mentality, is because they assume that they don't know enough. So they're looking for somebody else that they think knows more, when in reality, that may just be, a wolf in sheep's clothing that doesn't know more, but is trying to incentivize them to do something specific for their own financial gain. So it's kind of a hot mess, if you will, right now. And we at Rise Up are doing what we can to try to steer people in the right direction. I think there were a couple of things that were really fascinating to me about that. One was just how the lack of education has really led people, these new investors, to think that buying a company's shares means that you're supporting them somehow, or that is a way to help them survive. And that's not necessarily the case. In some cases, you can be doing more damage than good. The market is, there's a bit of Darwinism in the market, right? If a company can't evolve to the current marketplaces and forces and demands, then maybe that company shouldn't exist anymore. But that's neither here nor there. The other thing that I thought was really fascinating was how bifurcated the market was when it came to how men were approaching this and then how women were approaching this. So just anecdotally, I would have guy friends of mine who know what I do for a living, right? And they would have never talked to me about money before. All of a sudden were texting me about, all of these out of the money calls that they were buying on GameStop and all these things that they were doing. And I was like, do you even understand what that means? Right. And they were just trying to be part of the crowd and trying to, take advantage of that momentum that was happening. Meanwhile, most of my girlfriends were privately DMing me being like, hey, Tara, what's going on? Can you explain this to me? Like, I'm 5 years old. And do I even need to pay attention to it? So whereas guys were all jumping in, diving in, shooting first, asking questions later, women were taking a very different approach to this and wanted to understand if it even applied to them. And so, from my perspective, that's really interesting, as we're designing an app for retail investors, specifically women, but not exclusively women, but specifically kind of with women in mind, to try to get more women into investing, because only about a quarter of brokerage accounts today are owned by women. And so, trying to tackle that issue, and it was a really interesting behavioral finance case to shed some light on maybe, how female investors act differently and approach the market in a different way. And I really think that education ultimately needs to meet the audience or the user wherever they are. So on the younger side of things, maybe they have lower amounts of money to invest, you really need to teach them the core principles of investing. So even if it's just, $1 in a fractional share that they're investing, they actually understand what they're doing and they're forming solid financial habits while they're, investing small bits of money. Because frankly, if you can't manage $100, you can't manage $100,000, right? So then as somebody gets to an older stage, maybe they've got more discretionary income to invest, then it's really time to start taking those core principles and helping them understand how to apply it to their unique financial goals. And that's really what we're always focused on at Rise Up, is really, okay, what are you trying to achieve from this? What is the reason that you're even starting to invest, or that you're maybe buying some of these meme stocks or whatever? Because there is an intention behind your action, whether you're aware of it or not. And so making sure from a financial planning perspective that they understand, what they're trying to achieve, and that they're using investing in a disciplined way in order to achieve that goal or those goals if there are multiple. And so it really takes somebody from, just basic core financial principles and investing principles to, okay, how can I leverage this for my benefit? And that's really the kind of the corporate transition that we're in right now too, is having, taught these core principles. Okay, how can we now apply it to the market that we're in today and to this increased demand that we're seeing from retail investors?
And that wraps up this episode of BRN Weekly. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow, this time for BRN Sunday. I'll be joined by members of the media, academia, and financial services as we analyze all the news for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.